Hi everyone, welcome back. I have got some Tuxedo black ink and some Shabby Shutters distress ink. I'm also going to use the Waffle Flower A2 size dies in one of the smaller dies, which is unusual for me because usually I go big. And then a couple of the sentiments and one of the cute images from the Happiest Wishes stamp set from Simon Says Stamp. Some Copic markers to colour them in, and a MFT cloud border die stencil. Hello. So to start, I'm going to take the stamps and I'm kind of lining them up where I want them on the little panel. That also, the size of the stamps and the sentiment together was kind of what sort of determined the size of the size die that I decided to use. I felt like it worked better, otherwise it would look like there was too much space around him, although that wouldn't be a problem because of the clouds, and clouds are fun, so it might have been fine, but for me it just made sense. So I'm just lining up the sentiments because I got that on there a little bit wonky, and once I have that on my acrylic block, I'm going to use the Memento Tuxedo black ink. Memento is lovely for using with your Copic markers. So if you have an alcohol marker, you need a dye-based ink to colour with. So, or a hybrid. There are some hybrids out there which are quite nice. But I haven't used this for a while, so I thought, why not? Let's use that. And got that stamped on there, somewhat centered. And I love the cutesiness of this card kit for June 22. And from Simon Says, I like cutesy stuff. I like all the grungy and all that sort of thing as well, but I do like the cutesy. So this cardstock is just some Crafter's Companion stamping cardstock. It's actually meant for stamping and inking and things like that. I think I still prefer my Nina for this, for Copic colouring and that, but this works pretty well. And it's a good thick cardstock, so even if you use it for card bases, it's really good for that too. So I'm using the Shabby Shutters. Now I know this is not a normal cloud colour because it's kind of a green tint, but it worked really well, and it went with the card base I had, which was I already had some pre-folded card bases, and I believe the one that I have is the Berry Burst Stampin' Up! Cardstock from ages ago. That stuff's been retired. Those colours have been retired for a long time. So I had some leftovers and I was trying to use them up. So I used I took the colour of the card base, and then I tried to kind of match the colours that I used for the Copic markers, and then found a colour that would just work with. I didn't want too many colours on here, so if I'd done blue clouds it would have been another colour. And so I stuck with mostly like a green and sort of this sort of berry colour, and I think it works really well. So easy way without masking is, once you've stamped your images, as I'm stenciling, I'm just going up to the image but not over or through the image, and that just means that you don't have to sit there and mask the entire image off before you start inking. If you're going to ink blend like full backgrounds, then I would suggest masking the whole image just so you don't get ink anywhere on there. But because I'm going to Copic over the top, if a little bit of that ink got onto into the balloon, for example, it was fine. So you'll cover it up anyway, but I just tried to only sort of stencil those clouds up to the image, so I didn't get too much on there. So now I'm going to take I think I use a C1, a C3 and a little bit of a C5 for my cat. I don't even know if I did use any other C5 because it's quite dark. And I just went back and forth with it just to get a little bit of highlight. I don't worry about where the light's coming from either because I just wing it. But I just put my lightest colour on first, and then went in with a bit of the darker one, or I suppose medium if you're using 3, and then with my medium or the second colour again. I usually just use two colours, like a lighter and a darker, for my Copics. It's just the way that it works easier for me, but you can of course use 3 or 4 and really get some good depth and shadows and things like that. But for simple colouring I don't worry too much. I just kind of enjoy the process. I think that's the main thing. So again, just getting his hands down, paws, lightest to darkest. And by putting that light colour on over the whole, like on his face, I'm doing the whole face in the C1, and then I will come back and start adding the C3, and then go back over the whole thing with the C1, and then just add in a little like flicking motion for the C3 again. And that just helps when you've got a layer of ink there. It helps the second colour to move and blend better. So it does take a little bit of time. It's not massively sped up here, but it did take a little bit of time, even just doing this one image. I think you can probably see it better when we do the balloon, because I'll have a different colour, but rather than a grey. But this worked well. He's cute. So and then I just did his little nose in the darkest colour there. So I'm using RV10. I couldn't even read my own handwriting there. And then for his inner ears, and then going over it with a C1, so the lightest grey, because the inner ear, you don't want it to look shocking pink, and that is the lightest pink I had, but it was still too bright. So I just went over it with the lightest grey, and it just tones that pink down, but it's still got that hint of pink. Then for the collar, I've got 2 shades of green, and I thought that would tie in with the green cloud for his little collar. And then I have 2 like violet colours. This is a combo that I do like using together. Just works really well. So for this one, I didn't start with the lightest and then go in like I did with the cat. It's a bigger area, so I just kind of somewhat winged it. Put the dark one on the bottom, and then came in with the lighter one at the top, and then I'll go back and forth between the two until it's blended the way I want it. And sometimes you have to get quite a bit of ink on there just to get it to do what you want it to do and to blend nicely. But once it's in there and it's blended, it looks really nice, and you get that nice sort of, not ombre as in ombre, but sort of that shadowy. So you've got like a darker area, and then it just sort of fades into the lighter bit. So I like it. It works really nicely. And I always think it just lifts an image. It makes it look less flat. But obviously if you're not into colouring, you can obviously just pick colours and just colour them that colour. That'll still look cute. But I do like a bit of shadow. I'm just not an expert, as you can tell. There are some wonderful Copic colouring, alcohol marker colouring experts out there. Holy hell, there's loads. So just taking the I used some temporary adhesive just to hold it in place on my glass mat. So what I decided to do for this one, because it's quite simple, is I decided to use some foam tape just to sort of lift that so that it was just a little bit different. So it's going to have some height on it. Honestly, this tape I've had for a little while and I've never got on with it. I think I've said about it in other videos. Not knocking the brand, but I just don't get on with it. The tape does not lift off very nicely. Yeah, so I'm trying to use it up to get rid of it. But it is quite a high, it's meant for shaker cards, so it is quite a chunky or high profile, which was fine for this one, but I would have preferred maybe a slightly shallower or lower profile foam adhesive. And yeah, so I'm just going to get all these backings off here if I can. I'll even bring in a pair of tweezers to try and help me get that backing off, because it will be a little easier on some parts. So here, just hooking underneath there so that I can just get enough of that lifted so that I can grab and lift the tape off. Not the tape, the back of it off. And then I think I've got one more. Maybe two more. Right, and then I'm going to somewhat line this up straight in the middle of the card. That's how simple it got. I didn't even add a layer. Normally I'll add like a layer behind, you know, the main image panel. I just kept it super simple. So this is just a very cute, simple little card. And the sentiment sort of reads, "I'm so happy for you, I'm floating," which I thought was very cute for like a little friendship card. The last thing I did, just to zhuzh it up a little bit, because it is so plain and I'm not used to that, is I used some, this is a Crafter's Companion Spectrum Noir sparkle pen in the clear. So I did the collar and the balloon, and it does lift it just a little bit, just so you got a little bit something in the background. But there you go, guys. A nice, simple, easy, no masking kind of card. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.